Hi guys, my name is Jasmine and I am your small town gray witch here to talk to you about something I'm really excited for. Magic and witchlings. Alright, so the people who have children, have you ever thought about how to incorporate magic and witchcraft and your beliefs into the practice? Well, us pagans, us witches, us fun, fabulous people here, we don't have a church that, well, you might have a covenant or a church, but a lot of us don't. We don't have a church that we can go to that sets up programs to teach our kids what we want to teach them. Yes, we tend to have a free path, and it tends to be a little chaotic and you don't know where to start as parents, right? Well, I'm here to help. The first thing you have to think about is age appropriateness. Not everything is age appropriate for your kids, and I know that gets a little hard. However, you have to look at magic through their eyes. Magic is wondrous and fun, and it makes your heart swell when you do it. Kids look at the world like it's magic everywhere. So can you imagine looking at the world as if there's magic everywhere? I try to very hard in my adult life to find that magic, and kids find it so easily. So, when we talk about kids, there's a few things we have to consider. We have to think about age appropriateness. So, I've noticed even in my life that not every kid is ready for everything, even if the age lane is right where it should be. So, every 13-year-old is different, every 12-year-old is different. I have 13 nieces and nephews at this point, and some of them are very close in age, but maturity wise, ready for things, so on and so forth, they couldn't be light years separate. So you know your kid, you know what's best for your kid. So as a parent, make sure that you're taking into consideration what your kid can handle and how you want to raise your kid. Okay? So just remember that as we talk through things. What is your kid able and ready for? Okay? The second thing we have to think about is magic and witchcraft is a free flow self journey. So don't try to restrict them too much. Because if you're restricting them, then you're not allowing them to find their own journey. You can make it age appropriate without you have to do it this way. That's not what we're going for. Let them find their own path. I also understand that a lot of us we've all come, a lot of us have come from the church and the restrictions on that. So personally, I want to introduce my child to a lot of different religions and faiths and paths, and let them go into what speaks to them the most with a open heart and a soul full of love. But if you want to restrict your kid just to the pagan path, that is okay too. Just try not to restrict the actual magical journey, shall we? Alright, so let's talk about the fun things. The fun things we can do with our children. So, from a beginning age, read books to your kids. Tell them stories. That will help bring the magic back into their eyes. Or I shouldn't say back into their eyes. I should say into their eyes and back into yours. Alright, so I want to, just as an example, my mom used to read me this as a kid. I grew up in a Christian faith, but my mom loved this book. It was Babushka Baba Yaga. Babushka just means grandmother. So it was Babushka Baba Yaga, and it's just a very cute story. This one's by Patricia Polacco. I can never pronounce the last name. But it's just a really cute story about how the wood nymph of Babushka dresses up as one of the Baba Yagas and ends up not adopting, but adopting, like street adopting. You know how it is, where you're like, you're my grandkid now. One of the little boys who doesn't have a babushka and ends up taking care of him. And all the old ladies, all the babushkas, talk about how scary the Baba Yaga is, not realizing that the Baba Yaga is standing amongst them. And then come to find out at the very end, when there's wolves, the babushka, basically, Baba Yaga, jumps out of her babushka clothes and comes and saves the kid. And then everybody ends up accepting babushka Baba Yaga as his babushka. And a lot of the kids' babushkas that don't have it. So that's a very age-appropriate way, even from a little age, to introduce the story of the Wood Witch the babushka Baba Yaga. I've to the point where when people talk about Baba Yaga, I tend to just say babushka, because that's the story I grew up with. So find stories like that to read to your kid. The other thing is, if you can't find books, I know that there's a lot of stories out there that technically are not age appropriate. I would not be telling my child about Medusa, for instance, and the horrific actions took upon her, or how Zeus tends to be a little more free-willied than a lot of the other places. There are ways of telling these stories that also don't mention those things. You just have to be a little creative. And then explain those things as the child gets older. But this, you can find books like this, which gives a little insight to Baba Yaga, but not enough to make it unage appropriate. She's not gonna go after you and kill you and things like that in this book. So it's just a way of introducing these stories to your kids via age-appropriate aspects. I love stories. Stories, you have to think, basically witchcraft and deity work was based off of stories. Like, that's how we know the names. That's how we know about what happened in the past. That's how we know about myths and legends, is through stories. So take from something that doesn't need to be fixed and tell your kids stories. Don't forget the old ways. The other thing I really love is coloring. I know, you're an adult, you shouldn't be coloring, blah, blah, blah. One, it's super, super calming, meditative, and relaxing. There's actually coloring books for adults, just because coloring is so calming. And I bet your son, daughter, niece, nephew, whomever you have with you, the kid down the street, would love coloring. And there are coloring books for kids that have different creatures in them. And there's also, like, this is a coloring book mostly for adults. It's a little more, but, like, it has Medusa in it. And you don't have to tell the story to tell who Medusa is. So therefore, it has Medusa in it. There's plenty of witchy coloring books and things like that you can just sit down and color with your kids and talk to them. Hear what they have to say. They're humans. Treat them as such. Now, please explain to your kids when you're watching movies or doing coloring books, if you buy them a Hocus Pocus coloring book, that real witchcraft and media witchcraft are two different things. Very much two different things. So you really want to explain to them the difference between a movie witch and a real witch. Explain to them that real witches aren't going to eat children and turn green. Please explain to them that their teeth aren't rotting and they're not some heinous hags. We're not heinous hags. Explain to them the difference. And even a little kid can understand that. You can be like, "Hi, I'm mommy," or "I'm daddy. Do I look like that on the TV?" And ask them what the difference is between the TV witch from The Wizard of Oz and you are. What's the differences? Can you tell me the two differences? And they're going to, as kids, look and compare. The other thing you can do with your kids at all ages is nature walks, even when they're babies. We're always told that we're supposed to walk with our kids with strollers and take them for walks and get them fresh air and things like that. Do that with your kid, even from a young age. Say 2-ish, they're gonna start wanting to walk themselves, like even before then. Depending on your kid, have them pick up rocks, have them pick up twigs, talk to them about the trees, talk to them about the energy of the trees, have them hug a tree, play in the dirt with them. That is all from the age of child, like firstborns. You can go on a walk, put them in the stroller and go on a walk and just enjoy nature with them. Kids just want to spend time with you, so spend time with them. As they get a little older, there are certain things that you can do with them. What about going on a nature walk and picking rocks and then coming home and painting the rocks? I remember doing that as a kid, and it was magical to find the perfect rocks to want to paint and then line your garden with them. 1, you get a lined garden. 2, if you want to make it super witchy, at the back of the rock, put a little protection sigil on each rock. Have them paint the front of it, and you put a little protection sigil, and then line your garden with it. That way, your garden's really protected, and it's made with love in your family. So that's something you can do with your kids. Fairy gardens. Make fairy gardens. Seriously. Fairy gardens can be as simple as going to the Dollar Tree. They usually have the little fairy statues, and buying a couple of those for a few bucks and making a little garden for your kid. Or you can go all out and go to Joann's, and I don't do that. That's too rich for my blood, but it's an option. Or, you know what you could do? Make, if they're old enough, if they're getting to that 5 or 6 age, make popsicle stick houses. Go to the Dollar Tree. I know it's $1.25 now. Buy popsicle sticks, paint, crappy paint brushes, and glue, and make popsicle stick houses for the fairies. Put them on your porch. Put them in your garden. Don't be this aesthetic witch that you can't have a popsicle stick house for your fairies outside with your kids. Paint yours black. Be that aesthetic. Don't let your need for perfection supersede the magic that your kids can bring into this. So, depending on how many popsicle sticks you get, it could be like 10, 15, 20 bucks max, and then you have a whole afternoon of creating fences and houses for the fairies. Talk to them about the fairies. Talk to them about the different types of fae. Teach them manners on how to enter the fae's area. Bowing, offerings, yada yada yada. They'll go nutty for it. If you have a garden, help them identify herbs. Help them, you can help them work in your garden. I know that some people get a little, my garden, but what about creating a little area just for your kid to plant plants, or put rocks, or put their fairy garden? Give them their space in your big area. Maybe help them, teach them about the herbs. If they're old enough, be like, this is rosemary, we plant it at the entrance of our garden. This is basil, it does this. And teach them. They love to learn. So having them garden with you would be super. Have them dig the holes to put your plants. If you're planting seeds, have them dig the holes. Seriously, they'll love it. Tell them how big of a hole to dig. Show them what to do. Have them dig the holes. Then you don't even gotta really get your hands dirty. You can just plop the seed in and make them do the work. So, kitchen witchery. Your kids are constantly wanting to hang out with you. Your kids think you are the bomb.com and some. You are, the whole bag of Skittles to your kids. They want to be up your butt. Any parent knows they want to be up your butt, knowing exactly what you're doing and how you're doing it 20 times over. They are attached to your leg. And in the kitchen, it gets a whole heck of a lot dangerous, because you got hot things going and things like that. So, what about bringing them into that? having them mix the stuff, teaching them about heat and what's hot, telling them not to touch, teaching them why not to touch. These things are kitchen safety. It will go for their kitchen safety. It'll help them do for the rest of their lives, because every man and woman in the world should know how to cook. And you're teaching them about kitchen witchery. Why do you stir with this spoon? What way do you stir? If you stir this way, it brings in good things. If you stir in that way, just don't be too stringent. If the kid decides to go like this when they're stirring, like, just trust me, it's fine. You don't have to be perfect all the time. But bring them into the kitchen witchery. Why are you putting the batter in here? What is this cake for? Is it a love cake? Is it a happy family cake? Is it a dark chocolate funfetti cake that's gonna bring everyone happy? Like, tell them why you're making the cake. Bring that witchery into it. Sing songs while you're doing it. Sing songs in general. Sing songs. Songs are a great way to memorize things, learn things, sing songs, make up songs. I know a lot of us don't think we're crafty, but to our kids, even if you stink at it, they're gonna think you're the freaking amazingest, best Mariah Carey singer ever because you made up that song, and they're gonna think it's the most amazingest thing ever because you are the most amazingest thing ever to your kids. They look up to you tenfold. They want to be like you. That's why we're their parents. So, the other thing you can do is house protections. I personally love to put little eggshells at the beginning and entrances, at the exits and entrances of my apartment. They can be swept up. They don't hurt the apartment. I'll put this also in my protection video. However, why can't your kids help you sprinkle eggshells? Why can't your kids help you sprinkle eggshells? Okay, I'll sweep up the eggshells. Alright, do you want to help me sprinkle them? Okay, we're going to get a good layer of sprinkling on. Let's sprinkle the eggshells. Keep our house safe. That's the same thing with protection magic. Add them into it. Create, you know what you could do? Literally, have a bunch of different bowls of lavender, chamomile, protection herbs, whatever you want. Put maybe some rose quartz, clear quartz, whatever, and give each kid a little drawstring bag. Tell them to stuff their bag with all these different things. Tie it up real tight and put it in their room for protection at night to keep away the scary dark things. Nothing's gonna hurt you. We made that protection bag. That's our mojo bag. That's our protection bag. Nothing's gonna hurt you as long as we have that. Mama's here. You don't need to worry. But we made that. We put our magic into it. Boom. Now you hit 2 birds with 1 stone. You created an amazing activity that taught them about magic. You taught them how to create mojo bags, put it against their heart, hope real big, and you scared away the monsters at night so they can rest easy. Things like that, man. Invite them in. When it comes to being a teenager, they're gonna ask more questions. It's kind of the same thing, just make it age appropriate. Obviously, they don't want to read books with you. They want to read their own books and then maybe talk to you about it. So I would just really highly suggest that you skim through, at very least, if not read, the books before they get it. Even if it says magic for teens or something like that, it's just, I would guess that I would want to be responsible for whatever my teenager has hands on. And I think I would want to know what they're learning. So I want to skim the books first. I've met some of them I've read some of them, some of the books for teenagers, because again, I have, yeah, teenage nieces and nephews and things like that. And I have friends who have teenagers who have given books too. And I just go through the spells to make sure that anything I'm giving them is age appropriate and suits where they are in their path. Mentally, morally, ethically. Can they be trusted with these things? Can they not? For instance, there was a book, and a lot of it was spell for making a friend, spell for keeping a friend, spell for doing good on a math test, spell for all that stuff. But there was one spell that was for harassment of a certain sort, and I still gave the book to that particular team because I understood that they understood what that meant and what concepts were in that spell and how to use it appropriately, and I knew that their parents would be involved and everything else. I would not give that book to half of the teens I know. That teen had just had the mentality and the knowledge to understand conceptually what that spell would entail, where a lot of the other teens, even older than her, wouldn't. So even if it says teens or book for teens, just do me a favor and skim it before you give it. Skim it. And then if they have questions and stuff, you at least have a general grasp of what they're trying to reference or go for. The other thing I love to do with teens is actually invite them into certain spell works. A lot of the places down here don't really have amazing things, but there is a place, a hop, skip, and a hard jump from where I am, that does ritual circles every like Sabbath or moon or things like that. They'll do public ritual circles. I would bring my teen down to that. I'd bring my 10-year-old down to that. I'd bring probably a 6-year-old just because they'd tag along, but they probably wouldn't be interested. But when it came to teen and learning and things like that, I would definitely bring them down to that so they can feel the energy, they can work with that. The other thing is, if you're working with a teen that isn't yours, please make sure that you're okay with their parents. Their parents might not want you telling them all about this. There is a stigma about witchcraft. This, at least in the USA, we're very Bible thumper heavy. Just please make sure that you're okay with the parents. Don't be trying to do this behind the parents' back. That's not cool. So just, everyone has the respect to raise their kids how they want to raise them. That works for me. So those are the things that you just have to keep in mind. Another idea when it comes to, sorry, I do have notes. Another idea when it comes to kids is tarot cards. Once they get old enough to play cards in general, get them a tarot card deck. There are so many tarot card decks. It doesn't have to be a Rider-Waite deck. And you can get a totally cat deck or a potato deck. And you can do oracle decks too. And then you can set the table, and if they have a math test and they're 6 or they want to have a play date, have them flip a card. What's that play date? What do you think that play date is going to be like? If you try really hard and you use your manners, what is that card going to tell you what that play date is going to be like? And just have fun with them. Like, who cares if they get it wrong or right, or if they're guessing, or if they're really looking at the cards. It's getting this stuff into their daily lives to make it not odd. It's creating a practice for them. That's the other thing, is when they start wanting their own space to do things because they're getting old enough to be able to do things themselves, whether that be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, put up their own altar. Have them set up their own altar. Go Get a scrap piece of fabric or old something, or set up a table, or put it on their bureau in their room, clean off a little spot, and let them put the things that, if you can, put it in the living room. Like, if you can, create them a spot that is amongst the family, not just in their room by themselves if they want that. And just let them put the rocks they find there, and that's where they can sit there and get them a little, if you don't trust them with flames, get them a little electrical candle from the Dollar Tree for $1.25, so they can put their candle and they can turn it on and they can sit there with their Oracle tarot cards and their pretty rocks and whatever they think is important. Whatever they think is important, let them put it on their altar. So that way they have their space that you and them work together on, and you have your space that you can do your magic on. And it doesn't have to be chaos on your altar to give them their space. So, let them ask questions. Give them answers that are age appropriate. And you ask questions too. So, it's said that when we're born with our mind's eye wide open. And as we grow up and we're told, oh, that doesn't actually exist, and that's not a thing, and everything else, that it doesn't matter, and our mind's eye and our spiritual abilities slowly close off. This is a very well common known thing. So when your kid runs up to you and goes, "Mommy, mommy, daddy, daddy, there's an old lady in the yard." Yes, obviously check that there's not actually a legitly old lady in the yard. But say where. What is she doing? What does she look like? Once you find out that there's not actually stranger danger going on, make sure your kids are safe, start asking them questions. What is the old lady doing? Do you know her name? What does she look like? How is she dressed? Did she say anything to you? Did she wave to you? Does she look grumpy? Does she look happy? Ask these questions and write it down for them. Even if you don't find out anything else, write it down for them. And that way, what they're seeing, what they're feeling, what they're having fun with is validated, so you're not shutting down their magic before it's even formed. The other thing I want you to teach your kids, if you can, is meditation. I started this with babies whenever I babysit and things like that. And I've started this period is breathing. Just breathing. Because you know how babies get cranky, and they're obviously a 1-year-old is going to do this very much. But you can lay them on your chest and you can breathe to try to calm them down. And then when they get 2, 3, 4, and you gotta, obviously 3 is kind of the potty training age, but even when they get upset, Mama Cussings on Facebook does the blow the candle. So big breath, blow the candle. Teach them breathing techniques when they're younger, and then slowly teach them meditation as they get older. So that way they can stay in tune with their own bodies. They can understand their own feelings and what they're going through. And this isn't witchcraft as much as it is gentle parenting, but it's also witchcraft. Meditation and breathing techniques spans so far, it is unbelievable. So teach your kids. Teach them how to breathe and calm themselves down and understand their surroundings and work through things. How to connect with nature and connect with the energies around you. Teach them all that. Teach them how to dance in the rain. Teach them how to get their toes muddy. Teach them how to play. Really, there's so much magic in playing. Your kids want you. They want to learn. They want to play. Teach them about the elements of fire, earth, wind, and water. Run through the ocean with them, with the waves hitting your toes as you run across the dirt. that's just barely damp and then the wave hits you in the ankles. Pick shells with them and create a sea witch altar. Go up and dance in the rain with buckets over your head collecting the rainwater if you're legally allowed to collect rainwater. And then use the rainwater for something beautiful like watering your garden to protect you. There is so much magic around us. We just have to be open to it and remember what it's like looking through a kid's eyes. And that's the awesome part of having kids, is sometimes they can show you if you're open to it. Go, enjoy your kids. Teach them magic. Teach them the amazingness of the world. Teach them how to love themselves and love others. And for you, go do magic. 'Cause you are so worth it. Go do magic. Bye.